Hello and welcome again to another episode of Battle Ready. So this time, in our talks, we talk about different Warhammer, Age of Sigmar things. And one of the things we wanted to talk about today is tips and tricks for remembering abilities. Okay, Warhammer. Warhammer has a lot of abilities to remember. A lot. Not only do you have the general rules, which aren't that bad. I think we've got the core rules down pretty good. Mm-hmm. But you have your battle tomes unique rules, your battle traits. And on top of that, you have your sub-faction rules. And on top of that, you've got whatever artifact and command trait you picked. And on top of that, you've got all the different war scrolls that are in your army.
And on top of that, you also have spell lores.
Yeah, spell lores are in there too. So and prayer lores. I forget what they're called in the old version. So with all those things, not only do you have a lot to remember, but a lot of those things, especially like the artifacts and things like that, those can change from game to game as you decide you want to go sort of a different direction. So we decided, well, what are some tips and tricks that help new players remember this? And then also in the comments below, I would like you to submit your own tips and tricks that we can use, because we certainly
need them.
Are not perfect.
No.
I don't think we're perfect at all. Well, the number one thing I can say for all of this is don't sweat it, right? Now, if you're preparing to go to a tournament and you need to know every last piece of your list and every last piece of your opponent's list and all that, well, then maybe you've got some studying to do and that sort of thing. But coming from a casual perspective, there's lots of times in our battle reports where we just forget. In fact, upcoming, you're going to see a battle between Nurgle and the Stormcast where 100% of the Stormcasts forget to explode when they die. We just totally forgot that rule. We were so focused on the Stormkeep and the fact that they weren't Scions of the Storm because it was a Stormkeep army that we just totally forgot. So, that's sort of a big one.
We didn't forget the Blessed Suns, though.
No, we remembered most of the Blessed Suns. Not always in time, but we did roll them after when it was appropriate. So, but I guess the number one thing is, look, there's a lot to the game. There's a lot going on. If you miss one and it's fixable, something you say, oh, shoot, let me just roll this one die and we'll figure it out, then fine. But if you forgot something you should have done on round one and you're in round three already,
no,
just let it go. Have fun. Remember it for next game and just move on. So one thing to remember is, even though there are lots of rules and even though there's lots of things and you will forget things, don't feel like the game is tainted or everything's wrong or you feel like an idiot because you forgot something. No, everybody forgets. So just don't sweat the small stuff and have fun playing the game. Now, if you do want to remember some of those rules,
use a cheat sheet.
Cheat sheet. So one of the things we started doing is we started writing down before each game all of the spell lores, artifacts, command traits that have been taken. Something that's not on the war scroll. So we have easy reference to that. That has helped. And just the act of writing it down has helped. There's also a website, AOS Reminders, if you're not aware. It can be super helpful where you enter in all of your units, all of your sub-factions, everything like that. And it has a list phase by phase of all the things that should happen in each phase. So if you're in the hero phase, you can go bop, 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 bop down the list and make sure you don't forget anything. If you're in the combat phase, bop, bop, bop down the list. It's not one that I've used a lot.
Round three. Hold on, I gotta go check the computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can print the list out, right? So you can have it, or you could have it on an iPad or a phone or something. But it's not one I've used a lot because there's a lot of things there. There's a lot there. And then
a lot.
For me, I don't want to, and this is a personal thing, but I don't want to slow the game down by checking everything on the list every phase of every turn. I just don't want to do. I don't think that would be enjoyable. Now, again, if it's super important to you, if you're at a tournament, if you need to make sure you don't forget anything, cool. It's a fantastic resource. I just think that in the games I played with Drake, it's just I think the benefit doesn't outweigh the costs to it. Do you have any other ones? I've got a couple. I'll do the next one.
Hold.
So the next one is repetitions. Play that army over and over and over.
And over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and I think, when
Until
we
you know them so well, you just know their attacks.
yeah, because almost every time you make a mistake, and especially if it hurts you, then the next time you play, you're thinking, I'm not going to forget that. I'm going to remember that ability. And then you'll forget something else, and that'll hurt you. And then the next time you're like, I'm going to remember that. So
that.
over time, you start to remember all these different abilities. And I think that's why when Drake plays Night Haunt, because Drake has played it quite a bit, and it's probably the opponent I've played against the most, probably. We remember most of the Night Haunt abilities. We're pretty clear on those. Drake has most of the War Scrolls memorized.
Yeah.
And not because he sat down and memorized them, just because
I've played
from
them.
doing it so much. So that can be super helpful. And I think that's also, it's one of the things that's so great about Path to Glory is you start small with only, 4 War Scrolls in your army maybe. And so there's not a lot to remember, and you end up playing them over and over and over. So now by, at this point we've recorded 9 Paths to Glory
I'm
with
nervous for
Murglord
Battle 10.
and the Bite and Boulders, but we remember almost all of their abilities. Now, we didn't remember all their abilities in the first one, or the second one, or even the third, but as we play it over and over and over, we get to get more and more out of it. So I think those repetitions are super helpful. Thoughts?
I'm nervous for Murglord. Battle 10.
So the next thing I would say, next tip or trick, is to review all the War Scrolls and the rules before you play your game. Keep them so that you start the game with them fresh in your mind. And also to think about why you brought certain units. I think that helps more than anything else, because I don't forget the Annihilators crashing down, because I remember, the reason I'm bringing the Annihilators is so that I can crash them down. And that's also why I brought the Lord Imperator, so they could crash down closer. So having those, exactly. So having those memories and the reasoning why you're bringing things helps you to remember their abilities. Now that's not foolproof, because, for example, you might bring Bastion because he's a heavy hitter, and he can issue commands anywhere on the battlefield.
And he gets to shoot people.
He does not get to shoot people.
I thought that was an ability. He got to call thunder.
That's the thing. So you might forget, because it's just a hero phase mortal wounds mechanic, and if you're not running you might run a build where everything's mortal wounds all the time, and that's why you're bringing it. But if that's not the case, if that's just sort of ancillary, yeah, you might forget
Ancillary?
that. It means not the primary concern.
Oh.
So if that's not the main reason, then you might forget. But if you do think about the reasons you brought the units and what they're supposed to be doing for you, I find that helps. That helps me remember what their abilities are. Yeah?
Yeah.
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 What else? What other tips and tricks do you have?
None.
None. So as you can
All I
see,
have is a cheat sheet.
we probably need a little bit of help. And like I said, reviewing the things, thinking about why you brought things. A lot of list building can help you remember abilities. Writing down your artifacts and your command traits, spell lores, those sorts of things that you take that aren't on a War Scroll, that can be very helpful. And of course, if you forget, you forget. Just keep having fun. Don't worry about it, and enjoy the game. Now, because we are not perfect, even though we've played over 70 games at this point.
I want to get to the 100-game mark.
You want to get to the 100-game mark? We'll get there.
The milestones.
But we've played over 100 games at this point. I mean, over 100. Over 70. One day we'll be over 100. And we're still not perfect. Like I said, that we had a big mistake in our last battle report, which you'll see. But we've had a blast. So just because you forget a rule here or there, don't think that you're bad at Warhammer or failing the game or whatever. It's just, it's all part of the learning process.
Or Zinch is doing something to you.
Well, Zinch cheats a lot, though, so he's probably doing it, in the rules. You just don't know yet. It's all part of his plan. All right, cool. But if you have other suggestions for remembering abilities, oh yeah, this unit does have that mortal wound power, or oh yeah, this unit does have the power where at the end of combat they can do a thing. Put them in the comments. I would love to read them. I would love to get a little bit better at remembering all the abilities, because frankly, on ones that we've played a lot, like Night Haunt and now Gloomspite, we're pretty good. We're pretty good. I'm sure we could improve, but we're pretty good.
Here's one thing everyone can remember. Hobgots are terrible. They're only good for screaming.
Yeah, they're chaffy. They're a chaff unit, but they're not, yeah, they're pretty chaffy. But what I'm saying is, I like to play a variety, and that really interferes with my ability to remember all the rules. And I can tell you, especially with Seraphon, I have all these ideas in my mind, like, oh, the Saurus are going to be over here, and this guy's going to use his command ability on this Saurus guy. Oh, and the Skinks are going to be over here, and they're going to use their skink ability on these guys. And then I forget half of them when the game actually is played. So,
And I remember all of mine.
well, that's because you're playing Night Haunt and Gloomspite half the time.
I don't even have my Gloomspite list finished.
Almost.
I have all the models just ready to be made. And
Yeah,
painted.
you got to make them and paint them. But
Those
that's
squad
the
are so annoying.
that's the long and the short of it. So if you have ideas, if you have tips and tricks for us, please put them in the comments. I would love to know. And otherwise, thank you so much for watching.